and she had a great. Anyway, so we're done. We're
All right, so we're on here at episode 4. Let's just take this brochure real quick. We were just have a little side conversation where Charmaine was sharing the 5 wishes document for all that you can see as part of her informational brochure.
We have the essential information folder.
Right. Okay,
Yes.
so feel free to contact Charmaine if you'd like a copy of that.
Reintroduce.
Okay, so we're here at episode 4. I'm Bill Ulivieri of Senecal Capital Management, Glenview Chamber member, board member, longtime Glenview resident. I'm the owner of Senecal Capital Management. We're a state-registered investment advisory firm. We manage IRAs, 401ks, and now sell long-term care insurance along with other life insurance. I'm here with Matt Berrafato.
Matt Berrafato, yep. I'm Matt Berrafato, the Elephant Hunter. I'm a speaker and author, a new book that's coming out called Purpose or Passion, Which Comes First. It's going to be out next month. And I'm very passionate about this place called the Final Third, which is if you're in the final third or just about to touch the final third, everything we're talking about is going to be affecting your life in some way or another. What does that mean? My dad's 90 years old. He's the oldest living relative I have. Divide his age by 3. That means when I am 60, I'm in my final third if I live as long as he is today. And so if you're anywhere in that kind of a thing, these issues that we're talking about are going to be on the surface, and I'm thrilled that we're here.
And Charmaine Conaghan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Charmaine Conaghan with Always Best Care Senior Services. I am a Glenview resident. Always Best Care is located here in Glenview, and member of the chamber as well. And we help people with enjoying life and being safe in their homes or wherever they happen to be. We send caregivers to folks who need help, and we also help people figure out where the next move is if they need to leave their home and find a community that fits them. We help them with that too.
So Charmaine, let me ask you a question. I was doing some beta testing, like A/B testing, and I posted on Facebook. What type of interview would be you most likely click on that seemed interesting to you? So one, you get 2 choices. One was, do you really want to change dad's diapers, or preventing wintertime falls? Clearly, wintertime falls and preventing injuries due to wintertime falls was a clear winner by 80 versus 20. I mean, without a doubt. Most people even felt kind of like dirty even clicking on the thing with diapers. So I can see that my concept, my idea of clickbait and having provocative titles to drive traffic is probably not a good idea.
Especially that word.
Especially that word. So now it's already February 15th. We had a nasty bout of cold weather, the polar vortex, which we're just thawing out from now. So do you want to touch a little bit about that and preventing winter falls? And then maybe, Matt, you can go into the fact that your dad really doesn't get out very much, and maybe that's not an issue for you. But it is for my dad. But go ahead, Charmaine.
Well, preventing falls in the winter. Well, many of my clients who are realize that they have a high risk of falling, they tend to not really go out very much at this time of year. It's really a frightening prospect for people, knowing that if they slip, a broken bone will result, and several months in a hospital and a rehab center, will follow. So many people are very, very cautious about going out. If they do go out, it's best to go out with someone. If you don't have a family member who can take you out, you should really have a caregiver. You should have someone to ensure that you are safe when you walk out the door, or someone who can run errands for you. Instead of going to the grocery store, send someone. We do that all the time.
Right.
So.
Go ahead. I was going to say, there's people out there that are watching this that are going, that isn't me. That doesn't happen to me. I'm in the final third. That's not going to happen to me. Well, I'm here to tell you, you're going to have it happen to you at some point. And if you're not ready to have these issues in your mind, a conversation, it's going to happen. My dad is in a independent living facility, okay? What does that mean?
It means
independent. It's independent. That means that's not their responsibility to take care of him.
Right.
And what we had to come to the realization and grapple with.
People don't realize
that.
No,
this is like, and my dad's go, no big deal if I fall. No, it's not. It is a big deal because I happen to be power of attorney. I'm responsible. And that, we're going to get to the power of attorney and what that means. Good and bad. It's great to have it when you're it. Not so much. I'm joking, of course. But, so the challenge to my dad, independent, you know what? When it is cold outside, you know what he does? He sits at home and doesn't do anything by himself.
Right.
How do you want to be? You want your dad sitting at home, watching TV by himself, not doing anything for his entire rest of his life? His dad lived to 99. He may be there 9 more years,
right.
if not more than that.
He
And
is
I'm
in a
going,
community, though. I hope that he
Right.
avails himself of the activity, but he doesn't.
I'm being
Yeah.
facetious, but I'm looking at her eyes and going, yeah, for 2 years he's been there. And that's why we had to engage a caregiver, because even though, as you he wanted to fire this caregiver, that caregiver brought him into the community. Dad, Gabe, let's go out for a walk. Let's go
Probably
for
why
a
he
walk.
fired him. My mom was the same way when she was at a physical therapy with the Resurrection facility, like near Harlem and Talcott, where my mom and dad had a house. It was a physical therapy place back
Life
there.
Center, probably.
The Life Center, I think that's what it was called. My mom, being very introverted, hey, do you want to go out and play? Do you want to sing songs? No. Do you want to play the piano? No. Do you want to come in, watch us play bingo? No.
No, that's for old people.
That's for old
That's for
people,
old
right.
people.
Yeah, and it was
Like us.
What
No,
she,
it's- oh, no,
what
we're
she
not.
needed was to get up out of bed and to get the cardio system going, because my mom loves to read. She does spend 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and I am not joking, on the sofa reading.
Right.
That's what she likes to do.
Right.
And although my dad called me the other day from a parking lot of a Fannie Mae, and it was during the polar vortex. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing outside? Your mom wanted bridge mix from Fannie Mae for Valentine's Day. And yes, it was touching, but my dad has a bad leg and he walks with a little bit of a hitch, and he would be the first person to fall down with an aluminum walker going to the parking lot to get his beloved wife of 33 years some candy for Valentine's Day. So, you know what? Sometimes you mean well. You don't have to go out as an emergency. It can just be a luxury, and something can happen.
Well, here's where the twilight zone is this. My dad, when he was working and he was an attorney for 45 years, okay? He was part of the different communities where he was the attorney for the village of Morton Grove, for the village of Nile. He would go to in a restaurant, he would go and do the rounds at every table. He was so outgoing, it was ridiculous. And now he doesn't do that. And I know what it is now. That fear that, I'm not going to remember. There's fear that I've never.
There's embarrassment.
Exactly. I understand that, that's why this conversation for people to hear is really good.
Right.
The caregiver, what it did was, it got him exposed in this community that has a calendar rich of events, and yet he wasn't going to any of them.
Well, he may not have been going to any of them because he may have thought that he was the only person in that room with memory loss, and he was embarrassed.
Right.
So even if there are activities, I can understand why he wouldn't want to partake of those. You know, I think that when someone has memory loss, it's a best practice would be to have that person in a community where everyone is dealing with the same thing, because you can feel normal that way.
Is it okay and permissible to tell the caregivers or the nurses, like, I don't care what she says, I don't care how much she fights, you need to get her out of bed and get her to play bingo or get her to listen to music or whatever?
That's something that's a directive we get from families a lot.
Is that something that should be in writing?
Well, when we first start with a client, believe me, I sit down with paperwork and I ask a lot of questions, and we build a care plan from all those questions. And yes, we can put a request like that in writing, but it's something that we hear from a lot of adult children. Well, I don't care how much she fights. You got to get out of bed at 10 o'clock. You know, in practice, we can't force anyone to do anything.
Right.
We can't. We have some people that just flat out won't take a shower.
Right.
Right.
We can't hold them down and hose them off. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So it's just about using strategies.
Right. Well,
Not force.
Speaking of, we're talking about our caregiver that got terminated. Well, he was just following our orders, and now when you said what you just said, that could be what part of where my dad came up with this. You're forcing me to do something I don't want to do, and we would ask the caregiver, "Well, did you force him?" He said, "No, I always asked him."
Right.
But
So your dad felt that he was forced to do something he didn't want to do, but the caregiver was merely suggesting and asking.
Let's go for a walk. Or Gabe, would you like to go for a walk? And they would go for a walk. And what was cool was when they went to a walk, what's going on in here? And they're just wandering in a room where he would never have wandered in the room before.
That's great.
And all of a sudden he has a great time in the room. We knew he would because it was on the schedule, but he wouldn't go. But this time he did. And so for 2.5 weeks, he did amazing things in this community. I'm going, how cool that he's got, that he's not just sitting in this apartment with the TV on, being bored to death, and of course not eating and losing weight and doing all the things that would happen is dangerous.
Not drinking enough.
It's very dangerous because, and the doctor told us that. And so,
So Charmaine, you brought up like 3 topics and 3 documents. Basically, one is the financial power of attorney, one is the medical power of attorney, and the other one was a care plan. So the financial power of attorney is interesting because that is a legal document. I would imagine that's drafted by an attorney, but yet from the investment advisory side, we have a new form that we have to fill out when we take clients, whether it's an IRA or a 401k. It's something called the trusted agent designation. So you have to list someone, and generally it's an attorney or an estate, a CPA. Potentially, it's not a family member, and it's certainly not the advisor. Never name the advisor as the trusted. Isn't that funny?
That's a conflict of
interest. That's a conflict of
yes.
interest, right? It's an issue of fiduciary liability and issues. So the trusted agent designation, again, is a very, very close family member, but in general, it's a legal professional like a CPA, an accountant, or your attorney, for the custodian like TD Ameritrade or Fidelity to contact in the event there's an issue with your account. And just so that there's somebody other than the advisor they can contact, because we don't really have legal authority on the assets. We have limited discretionary authority. So again, going through the finances with my dad, going through the forms and asking him who should be named as the trusted agent, it's a conversation that doesn't go well because they don't want anybody on my money. I don't want anybody touching my cash. And I don't mean to, I'm not being disrespectful of my dad when I say that. I'm just saying that you talk about the elevation of conversation. It's about his retirement plan and the assets that he's been able to set aside over these years. And he doesn't want anybody else to touch those. And so by designated a trusted agent, he feels like somehow those assets are compromised.
I completely understand why he would feel that way. Yeah.
And I don't know the attorney. This is somebody he's had a relationship with for 30 years. And I have to now call a complete stranger in the event of my mom and dad.
Well, this is an important thing. Let's talk a little bit about the power of attorney. You got a power of attorney healthcare, you got a power of attorney property. Those are the 2 that have to be in place if you're going to have a conversation about money, about your, again, we have 7 kids. We had to assign that. My dad had to give that and pick it. And
you not only need to have the power of attorney, you also need to understand what the full picture is. That's another thing that we find in my own family too. My husband's family, my family, and with our clients. The kids don't often know how much mom and dad have.
Right.
Or what they don't have.
Right.
Or if they've taken a reverse mortgage out on their residence.
Right. Those are potholes.
Or if they have a long-term care policy.
Right.
Before you pursue the power of attorney situation, you need to really understand what the full picture is.
Got it.
Especially if mom or dad need to move to a community, most especially if it's a memory care community, because then they really they need that care, and they can't speak for themselves. You need to understand what they can afford. When someone calls me and asks me to help them with community placement, I ask them 3 things. What's the radius that you want to look at geographically? What are the needs of your loved one? What level of care are you looking for? And what can they afford?
Right.
What's their monthly income? What are their assets? Do they own their home? It's very important. Otherwise, I really can't go very far if I don't know what they can afford.
Right. So, on power of attorney, so that's a discussion that comes. I mean, it needs to be in place. We're going to have that conversation with our 3 children, me and my wife, so they can know what we have, because they don't know that.
Sure.
And that's important information so that they get the lay of the land. By the way, they dictated to us after going through my father-in-law. We lost my father-in-law to Alzheimer's in July. They said, you will have a long-term care policy, right, Mom and Dad? Because they know what that means. They saw what happened without it, how limited you are with it. You at least have freedom, and it doesn't make this thing that we're talking about any easier, but it's nice not to have the financial
If I can interject,
Sure.
Long-term care insurance is extremely important to have.
Yep.
Right.
Especially if dementia, you've seen dementia in your own family.
Right.
If it's hereditary.
Likelihood is it's going to happen.
Right. It is the most expensive diagnosis, because we've had so many people with advanced Alzheimer's who are perfectly ambulatory, not a thing wrong with them health-wise, and they will live a long time and need full care. Full care. You know, they have to be looked after 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
And it is expensive. I
Right.
can't, you know,
The statistics
especially
are
if they don't sleep.
Right.
That's a
Staggering.
huge
The
one.
staggering.
The statistics are staggering.
Yeah.
And and these are coming from, you know, when we're living it right now. So when we went through and got our policy, what happened was I was shocked at how right on the people were on the dollars that were today, which I can't imagine what it's going to be in 15 or 20 years from now. But the amount of people that are going to need care
Right.
is somewhere along the line of 70% of all of us.
I know, and
Are gonna
people
need
don't
long-term.
get long-term care insurance. Oh, I'm not going to need
Yeah.
that.
No,
No,
it's,
it's,
You know, you need it, and you need an inflation.
yes,
Exactly.
You need the
As well.
cost of living adjustment that goes in there, and you need a power of attorney, because when I was talking to my mom and dad about their long-term care policy, which they currently do not have, I mean, even though they're in their early 80s, it's still not a deal breaker, believe it or not. But they had the
That's good to
insurance.
know. I thought that
The
would be-
insurance carrier needed a power of attorney for my mom in the event something happened to my dad if he died, because there was still like an insurance death benefit related to it. It was an annuity, a fixed annuity that would give them a way of converting some of their current cash just sitting idle, just in case they could do an immediate annuity.
Right.
My mom and dad would receive a monthly check, guaranteed payment, but when my dad died, my mom would then continue receiving it. But if she died, it potentially could go to the beneficiaries, which would be my sister and I. But a power of attorney needs to be in place in order for that transition, the dominoes, to continue. So let's wrap up episode 4 here. I think we're on 20 minutes, and we'll do episode 5. We'll be right back.
Where do you get a hold of Bill?
Right. Bill Ulivieri, Senecal Capital Management. We're 847-686-4800 or info@senecalcapital.com.
Charmaine?
Always Best Care Senior Services, seniorcarenorthshore.com or 847-730-5930.
And Matt Berrafato at matt@elephanthunting.net. See you next episode. Thanks.